Hey guys, we're going to look at part 2 of Unit 3, which talks about more work with parabolas. So, a big focus on this assignment is going to be the terms that you can see bolded, which are max and min. And we're going to also talk about the standard form of a quadratic equation like we did in the first. And we're going to talk about how changing A and the C value can affect some of the values that you'll run into on the graphs and some of the points you may see on the table. So we're going to start off. First thing we're going to do is we're going to get your calculator out. We're going to graph y equals negative x squared. So I got the calculator up, and I'm going to clear out the old equation I had in. We're going to put in negative x squared. So I got negative x squared. If you put the minus sign in on accident, you're going to get an error message. So remember, you use the negative button down at the bottom near the decimal point. And then I'm going to hit second and graph. So now I got a graph. And again, I can move up and down the cursor to plot each of the points. But when it comes down to it right now, it's going to be, I'm going to have negative 3, 9. I'm sorry, negative 3, negative 9. Negative 2, negative 4. I'm not going to really bother filling in the middle part of the table. It's not really necessary because the calculator is doing the work for us. But I am going to fill in the points because that would be the work that I'm showing. So pretty much what we have from yesterday, or the earlier graph, was the one from the last assignment, was this, but again, it's flipped upside down. So I'm going to start at 0, 0, which would, again, they adjusted the x and y axis because of how the graph looks. And I'm going to go and do my negative 1, negative 1, negative 2, negative 4, negative 3, negative 9, and then go on the other side and put those ones in. So you can see how I'm kind of just doing it very quickly. I noticed once I put a point in with a quadratic, a lot of times there's one that's going to be opposite of it on the other side. So I'm just using that idea of symmetry to help me graph this a little quicker. And that's the graph y equals negative x squared. Now this one, for the range, the y values, well, I notice that my graph gets as high as right there and is going downwards. So that means that the range is going to be y values that are less than or equal to 0 only. So we only had, on my graph, on my table also, I only have values for y's that are 0 or below. Now, some of the things you'll notice when we go to the rest of the graphs, and a lot of these I'm going to have you try on your own. Some of the big things that I want you to focus on with this is making sure that you mark where this graph touches the y-axis. So where's the point that touches the y-axis, and also how is it shaped? Does it open upward or downward? And you're going to be able to tell that from the first value. So I'm going to put that first graph in. So I'm going to go to y equals, and I'm just going to type in 3x squared plus 6x minus 4. And then I'm going to hit second and graph. Now there's a couple things that I want you to notice. The first thing is that, like I said, where it touches the y-axis. So it touches the y-axis somewhere down here. If I was to look at that point on the table, it's the point 0, negative 4. And you'll notice that the y value, the last value, the y-intercept in this graph, we also talked about linear functions, is at negative 4. And then it's 3x squared, which means that since it's positive, it's going to open upward. So it's going to look something like this. And again, it's not perfect. They're asking for a sketch. So as you're doing the other two, just kind of make sure that you include that y-intercept point and then sketch the graph around it based on what you see on the table. Now I'm going to go to the back of this page, and with the 6 graphs on exercise 3, I want you to kind of do the same thing. You can kind of focus on first the point where it touches the y-axis, and then see if you see any differences between when we have 2x squared, 3x squared, or 4x squared. So I'll put in 2x squared, just to kind of get you started. And if we hit second and graph, I got a graph similar to what we started with yesterday on the last assignment. So it starts at 0, and again, there's no third number. And then this kind of goes upward in both directions. And again, it's a sketch. It's not going to be perfect. So I want you to work on some of the other ones. I'll look at C. I'll go back to y equals, put in 4x squared. Okay. So now that one, similar turning point, but it looks like the points there, or the line itself, gets a little closer together. So after you complete those graphs, I want you to go down to exercise number 4, and I'd like you to fill in the spaces for these based on what you think is going to happen on those graphs.